السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم معلم إبراهيم علمنا ومفهم سليمان فهمنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا ورزقا طيبا وعملا متقبلا. So inshallah ta'ala, today is the first lesson in this new book that we'll be studying in the science of hadith, in the science called Ulum al-Hadith or Mustalah al-Hadith. The science is the network or the science behind the knowledge of hadith. How is hadith recorded? How can we tell a hadith is authentic from being not authentic? This is what this science is about. And it's quite vast, and it can get technical and very advanced. But inshallah ta'ala, at this level that we are at right now, we're just going to be taking the alqab of the hadith. And that's what this manzuma, this poem is called, Manzuma to Alqab al-Hadith, where we're just taking the titles of the different terminologies, if you like, of the science, and having a brief introduction into the definitions and what they look like, inshallah ta'ala. So this is an introduction into the study of the science of hadith, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We won't go into details of certain aspects because it's an introduction. And then inshallah ta'ala, in future books, we'll go into more details and we'll work our way up, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. The science of hadith is a tremendous science, and it's connected to the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the scholars, they say, we know the value of a science in accordance to the value of the person is connected to. So we know the value of the Quran is because it's connected to the speech of Allah. And we know the value of hadith because it's connected to the speech, actions and affirmations of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this science is the backdrop or the behind the scenes of the ilm of hadith. And Hafidh al-Hakami, he says in the famous lines of poetry, إن أفضل العلوم بعد كتاب الصمد القيوم علم الحديث إذ هو البيان لما به قد أنزل القرآن فسنة النبي وحي ثاني عليهما قد أطلق الوحيان. Indeed, the best science or thing after the book of Allah Azza wa Jal is the knowledge of hadith. Why? Because it is the second sunnah, it is the second revelation, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and they are both referred to as the wahyani, the two revelations. And he says, Al-Hafidh al-Hakami, in those beautiful lines of poetry, that the hadith came as an explanation and a clarification to the Quran, that which is in the Quran. The Quran will bring, for example, Aqimus Salah, establish the prayer. Okay, we establish the prayer, but how do you establish the prayer? Where do you place your hands? What do you do first? How is it 3 rak'ahs, 4 rak'ahs? Is this mentioned in the Quran? No. This is clarified in detail in the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Then he says, وَإِنَّمَا طَرِيقُهَا الرِّوَايَةِ فَافْتَقَرَ الرَّاوِي إِلَى الدِّرَايَةِ لصحة المروي عن الرسول ليعرف المقبول من مردود أو كما قال. He says that the only path to الرواية, the path of narrations, is by الدراية. So the narrator needs diraya, understanding. وإنما طريقها الرواية فافتقر الراوي إلى الدراية لصحة ليعرف, so that he can know that which is authentic from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ from that which is rejected. لا سيما عند تظاهر الفتن ولبس إفك المحدثين بالسنن, especially in the times when fitan has become widespread and the people of innovation and desires have mixed it with the sunnah. And so it's become khalid. What is the sunnah from that which is not from the sunnah? How can you differentiate from that which is authentic from the Prophet ﷺ from that which is not? And this is the same as the times that we live in. Hafidh al-Hakami only died a couple decades ago. So what did he say? فَقَامَ عِنْدَ ذَلِكَ الْأَئِمَّةِ بخدمة الدين ونصح الأمة فخلصوا صحيحها مفترى حتى صفت نقية كما ترى. And when they saw that instance and that fitan became widespread and the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ became mixed with that which is not from the sunnah, قام عند ذلك الأئمة, the great imams stood up بخدمة الدين, in servicing the religion and giving sincere advice to the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they differentiated between that which is authentic from that which is not authentic. This science came about. The tools to differentiate between that which is authentic from that which is not authentic. حتى صفت نقية كما ترى, up until it became pure just as you see. We have Sahih Bukhari pure, Sahih Muslim pure in front of us, easy for us to do talaqqi of and to study. But that came through juhd and hard work and striving from these great imams. فقام عند ذلك الأئمة بخدمة الدين ونصح الأمة فخلصوا صحيحها من مفترى حتى صفت نقية كما ترى. Up until he said ثم إليها قربوا الوصول لغيرهم فأصلوا أصولا ولقبوا ذاك بعلم المصطلح حيث عليها كل واحد منهم مصطلح أو كما قال. He said that after they did that and they protected the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the great imams of this religion came وقربوا الوصول, they made it easy for those that came after them to be able to ascertain and to verify just as they did that which is authentic from that which is not authentic. ثم إليها قربوا الوصول لغيرهم, they made it easier for others to be able to ascertain and to have the tools to be able to do this as well. وَلَقَّبُوا ذَاكَ بِعِلْمِ الْمُصْطَلَحِ, and they called that science, where it has these tools, علم المصطلح, the knowledge of terminologies. حيث عليها كل واحد منهم مصطلح. Why was it called the knowledge of terminologies? Because every tool that they used, they gave it a terminology, as we're going to see inshallah ta'ala. Mursal, hadith, muttasil, munqati', mawquf, as we're going to see inshallah ta'ala. They gave them these terminologies. So this knowledge was called, with some scholars, mustalah al-hadith, terminologies of hadith. And others it was called ilm al-mustalah, the knowledge of terminologies. And others they called it ulum al-hadith, the science of hadith. And others called it other than that. All of it talking about the tools and the things that you require in order to be able to determine that which is authentic from that which is not authentic. Everyone with me? So this is just a short introduction from the lines of poetry. You can go back to اللؤلؤ المكنون في أحوال الأسانيد والمتون للحافظ الحكمي, where he wrote these beautiful lines of poetry that we read in the introduction, that we mentioned and referenced to. Our author today, he lived in and passed away in the 10th century, and he wrote these lines of poetry in the 11th century, and the tahqiq of this work was done by our brother Sheikh Muhammad ibn Sheikh Abdul Karim Hassan Hosh, who we studied together in Medina, who finished his PhD last year, and he's back in Bur'a now teaching the people. May Allah Azza wa Jal preserve him and accept this from him. The author, he says, we're going to go straight into the lines of poetry inshallah ta'ala, and as we said, the manhaj and the tariqah that we'll be going through these lines of poetry and this book specifically is that we won't go into detail with each topic and each terminology of a specific word. Rather, we're going to give an introduction, what does it mean, and a definition to it. And inshallah, in books where we go into higher books, we'll go into examples and difference of opinion between the scholars and the likes of that. Is that clear? This is the introduction, inshallah. And that's why it's called Manzumatu Alqab al-Hadith, the poem of Alqab. Alqab is, you know what laqab is? Laqab. Huh? Surname? Nickname. Laqab. So they say, they give someone a nickname, is called laqab. So these words, terminology here we say in short, but these words, mursal, munkar, this one, that one, they are alqab for hadith. They are not nicknames, but terminologies for hadith to make it easier for us to understand what they mean and what's their usage and what's their benefit. So we're just going to go through them as an introduction. That's what the book is about, just giving these the terminologies and a short definition, and then moving on, inshallah. We'll start with the introduction, where he praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending peace and blessing upon the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He says, حمدا لمن نزل أحسن الحديث وصلواته تسح لا تريث على الرسول المصطفى وآله وصحبه وناقل أقواله. وقد أشار بعض أعيان الورى بنظم ألقاب الحديث دررا، فما ألوت في ابتدار ما قصد جهد مقل جاد بالذي وجد، مقتصرا فيه على الألقاب والله أستهدي إلى الصواب. Here he mentions that after praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sending peace and blessings upon the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentions that some people asked him to write a poetry in the terminologies of hadith, and for a long time he didn't do so. But then Allah Azza wa Jal, encouragement came and he decided to go ahead with it, and he wrote these lines of poetry in the science of hadith. He says, starting with the first one, المتن ما روي قولا ونقل والسند الذي له به وصل ثم الصحيح عندهم ما اتصل بنقل عدل ضبطه قد كمل إلى النهاية بلا تعليل ولا شذوذ فعن بالتحصيل والحسن الذي الشروط استوفى إلا كمال الضبط فهو خفى والحسن الذي الشروط استوفى إلا كمال الضبط فهو خفى ثم الضعيف ما به اختلال في شرط أو أكثر واعتلال. We'll stop till there inshallah ta'ala, the first 10, and then we'll move on afterwards inshallah. And before we begin, may Allah reward the brother Zala Khair, I'm not going to mention him, who worked hard to do this handbook for us and making space for notes and putting out the different alqab, the different terminology that we're going to use. So don't forget him in your dua, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala. We'll start with al-matnu. Al-matnu ma ruwiya qawlan wa nuqil. And I know it says the other way around for you guys, sanad first and matan, but we'll start with matan. What is a matan? What is a matan? This is the first laqab that he introduces. A laqab, he says, is that which has been narrated from speech or action. I'm going to say it slowly so you can write it in the box after the word. So under the second word that you have matan, write down that which has been narrated from speech or action. That which has been narrated from speech or action. That which has been narrated from speech or action. In other words, the actual text. In other words, the actual text that you're going to be studying and the likes. That is what matan is. And that text can be what? It can be a speech, yani a statement, or it can be an action that has been narrated. Okay, that's the first one, matan. That which has been narrated from speech or action, in other words, the actual text. Everyone with me? We all got that down? طيب. Next, as-sanad. What is the sanad? The sanad, he says, that which connects the matan, the text, to the person saying or doing the action. That which connects the matan to the person saying or doing the action. That which connects the matan to the person saying or doing the action. In other words, the chain. In other words, the chain. In other words, the chain. I'll say it one more time. The sanad is that which connects the matan to the person saying or doing the action. In other words, the chain. So we have here two things. As-sanad wal-matan. The sanad, or the matan, let's begin with it, is the actual text that we have, and let's place that at top. We have a text that says, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. A text that says, indeed, all actions are by their intentions. This is the sanad. This is the matan, the text. خليكم معي. Testing you guys are with me. This is called what? The matan. What's the matan? إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Indeed, all actions are by way of their intentions. طيب. This text has a chain. How did it reach us or the book we're reading? Let's say the book that we are reading is Sahih al-Bukhari. Did Bukhari narrate this text? Did he say it from himself? No. He mentioned a chain. He mentions his chain going back to the text. I have been narrated by person number 1, from person number 2, from person number 3, from person number 4, from the person that mentioned it, in this case being the Prophet ﷺ, and this is the text. So we have the text and the sanad. Text and sanad. Matan and the sanad. There are many ahwal of the matan and the sanad. This is just an easy form for you to understand what matan is and sanad is when it's used. But there are different scenarios that occur with the sanad and the matan that we're going to study throughout, inshallah ta'ala, this science. Then he says, everyone with me so far? This type of lesson requires us to write down, stop, everybody wrote it down, khalas, we continue. This is the type of lesson this is. Some lessons you just listen, mashallah, like seerah, don't write nothing almost. Some lessons half. Like in this one we have to have everything down, otherwise there's no fa'idah. Is that clear? Second, or the third laqab, if you like, he says, ثم الصحيح عندهم ما اتصل بنقل عدل ضبطه قد كمل إلى النهاية بلا تعليل ولا شذوذ فعن بالتحصيل. He says that sahih, this is the third laqab now. Sahih, the word sahih, S, you already have it. خلاص, I don't have to write it out for you. جزا الله الأخ الذي جمع هذا الكتاب. May Allah reward the brother that brought out the handbook. Sahih. What is it? It is a higher level of authenticity. It is a higher level of authenticity. Why? Because we have 2 levels of authenticity. Don't write this down, just listen for a second. We have 2 levels of authenticity, just for you to understand. We have a higher level and a lower level. Both of them are accepted and authentic, but we have a higher version and a lower version. Right now, we're taking the higher version, which is called Sahih. The lower version is going to come next. The higher version is called what? Sahih. What is Sahih? It's the higher level of authenticity, sah? Like, what's the difference between this one and this one? We're going to learn that now. He says, or say in other words, Sahih, write this down. You have Sahih, right? Colon. Is that which actualizes 5 conditions. Sahih is that which actualizes 5 conditions. Sahih is that which actualizes 5 conditions. Condition number 1. Number 1, a connected chain. Connected chain. Number 2, trustworthy. Trustworthy. Number 2, trustworthy. Number 3, complete precision. Number 3, complete precision. I'm going to talk about each one, inshallah. Number 3, complete precision. Number 4, no illah. No illah. Okay, how do you spell illah? I-L-L-A-H. I-L-L-A-H. And if you want to be precise, is a ayn. So before the I, you have a little asterisk. Illah. I-L-L-A-H. No illah. So it doesn't, from the conditions is, it cannot have no illas. What is illah? We're going to find out later. Number 5. Number 5, no shudud. No shudud. How do you spell shudud? S-H-U-D-H. Dhal. D-H-O-O-D-H. Or you can write U-D-H. No shudud. S-H-U-D-H-O-O-D-H. Shudud. No shudud. It cannot have any shudud. Okay? So, someone repeat to me. What is sahih? Hands. What's the beginning? What did you say from the beginning? Ahsant, okay. That which actualizes 5 conditions. The sahih hadith is that which actualizes 5 conditions. What's the first condition? Ahsant. Ahsant. Okay, these are the 5 conditions. In order for a hadith to be sahih, authentic, at this higher level of authenticity, it must have these 5 conditions within it. Is that clear? If it has all 4 but it doesn't have one of them, is it sahih? La. Any one of them missing, it's not sahih anymore. It has to have all 5. Is that clear? Any questions? Next, he says, نعم والحسن الذي الشروط استوفى إلا كمال الضبط فهو خفى. He says Hasan, the next laqab is Hasan. What is Hasan? Hasan is the lower level of authenticity that we mentioned. We said there's a higher level and a lower level. The lower level is Hasan. It's still accepted, it's still authentic, but it's not the same as the higher level of Sahih. It's called Hasan. But what's the difference? The only difference between Hasan and Sahih is in the precision. Precision. What's precision? Okay, Ahsant. Good. Okay, let's go back a step. Let's just pause for a second. Let's go back a step. The 5 conditions. A connected chain. What do we mean by a connected chain? This is the type of lesson I need to walk around. But we've got cameras, we can't walk around. Levels. Connected chain. What's a connected chain? A connected chain is that from the book, let's say we have Sahih Bukhari. Imam Bukhari says, it was narrated to me from this sheikh. From Bukhari all the way to who? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It has to be a connected chain from Bukhari to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When did Bukhari die? Huh? Okay, Islamically, Hijri. Hijri? 400. Any other guesses? 300 or something. Any guesses? 200 or something. Warm, cold. 256. 256. Okay, 256 after the Hijrah. Memorize that. Imam Bukhari died 256 after the Hijrah. Bukhari could not have heard from the Prophet ﷺ. If he says, the Prophet ﷺ said, and then he mentions a text, is that connected or not connected? It's not connected. Why? There's 250 years gap. Did he time travel back to the Prophet ﷺ, hear from him, come back? There's 250 years unaccounted for. So we have to have a chain. He hears it from his sheikh, he hears it from his sheikh, going back to the Prophet ﷺ. That's a connected chain. Any gap is not connected. Are we with each other? Second. What's the second one? Trustworthy. Trustworthy. Oh, for next lesson we have to buy like the headphones, yeah? Yeah, and the whiteboard next. Why not? طيب. Trustworthy. Trustworthy takes out someone that's not trustworthy. For example, someone that tells lies. Someone that tells lies. Not in the hadith, just between the people. He lies. Trustworthy, not trustworthy? Not trustworthy. He's not considered trustworthy anymore. We're not allowed to accept his hadith. Someone that does sins publicly, drinks alcohol publicly, we're not allowed to accept his hadith. وهكذا. This is trustworthy. We have to have a trustworthy narrator. Number 3, what's number 3? He has to have complete precision, meaning his memory has to be sharp. Meaning, if he hears a hadith or he writes down a hadith, he narrates it just like he heard it. If he mentions a hadith and it's connected and he's trustworthy, mashallah, highest level of trustworthy, but you narrate to him something, he flips a 180. Not because he's lying, but just because his precision is not good. Okay, we have an incident. Right now, for example, the teacher today, someone says, oh, what happened in the lesson? The connection went off a little bit. Someone says, oh, you know, the teacher, he decided to ruin the cameras and he stood up and he started teaching standing up with the microphone in his hand. One of the brothers that didn't attend the lesson or that never attended the lesson asked someone that attended. Ask Bilal, for example. Said, Bilal, what happened? Bilal says, oh, there was technical difficulty. So Ustad couldn't teach sitting down anymore because the cameras weren't fixed. So he had to stand up and no one could hear him probably because the microphone was still on the table. He just narrated what happened in which form. Was it accurate? Completely inaccurate. Was he lying though? He wasn't lying. He didn't intend it to lie. He's just not good at picking up things and remembering things and relaying it. Is that clear? No, they're not connected. He asks, does bad memory ruin your trustworthiness? No. Your trustworthiness is one thing, but your memorization, your precision is another thing. And so this highest level, you have to have the highest level of precision. This precision is of 2 types. Memorization in your heart and memorization precision in the book. That if a person writes it in the book, he narrates from the book exactly how the book says. What's the number 4? Everyone with me? Precision. Okay, Bilal, is he still trustworthy? Yes, he's still trustworthy. But can we take hadith from him? No. Just test yourself amongst your friends. It's your homework. Test yourself amongst your friends. Whenever an incident takes place or something, just normal thing, and you ask, oh, what happened? Okay, who narrates it? Mia bil mia, 100% like it happened. Who adds things and takes away things? Just the normal dunya affairs. The ulama, they looked at this aspect and they looked at it for the hadith of the Prophet. So anyone that wasn't the highest level of precision, sorry mate, you're not in this level of sahih. And then you cannot have any shudud and illa, no illa as well. We're going to talk about that later. Hidden defects and shudud. We're going to talk about that later on, inshallah ta'ala. Out of the 5 conditions, is there a connected chain, Hassan? Yes or no? Yes. Is it a trustworthy narrator or narrators? Yes. Is it complete precision? No. This is where it's different. خَفَّ ضَبْطُهُ. The precision is a bit lower. It's not the highest level. It's not sifr, it's not 0, but it's a bit lower than 100%. Let's say, just for you to understand, let's say complete precision is 90 and above, 90% and above. Hassan would be 65 and above, 70 and above. That he gets right. That's why he's a bit lower. Is that clear? It's still acceptable, but his precision is a bit lower. But it still has the first condition, connected chain, still has to be trustworthy, still has to have some precision, not the highest level, but it's a bit lower than that. And it still has to have no illah and no shudud. Is that clear? So the only difference between Hasan and Sahih is in the precision. That it's not complete, it's a bit weaker. It's true, yes. Can they differ on how precise they are? Yes, someone can say, no, this guy he's actually Sahih. No, this guy's actually, he's Hasan. Some can say, actually, you know what? He's Da'if. There is that difference of opinion. But we'll study that, inshallah, later on. Third thing, ضعيف. The third thing that he mentions, ثم الضعيف ما به اختلال في شرط أو أكثر واعتلال. Then he mentions ضعيف, the لقب ضعيف. What does ضعيف mean? ضعيف means weak. What is the weak hadith? This is the definition, right? Any hadith that is missing, any hadith that is missing any one of these 5 conditions. Any hadith that is missing any one of these 5 conditions. Any hadith that is missing any one of these 5 conditions. That's it. That's hadith da'if. Again, any hadith that is missing any one of these 5 conditions. So, if a hadith has a connected chain, trustworthy narrator, complete precision, but he has a illah, is it still sahih? It has a illah. No, it's da'if. If it has all 4, no illah, but it has shudud, is it hadith sahih? Da'if. طيب, it has no illah, no shudud, a trustworthy narrator, complete precision, but it's not got a connected chain. He's strong, he's precise, he's trustworthy, he's got no illah, no hidden defects, no shudud. But he doesn't have a connected chain. Is it da'if or sahih? Da'if. Because he doesn't have a connected chain. Any one of these 5 is missing. If 2 of them are missing, even worse. If 3 of them are missing, even worse. But if any one of them is missing, it's da'if. Say again? Stop at the Sahaba. We're going to get there, inshallah. We're going to get there.
What's the difference between this and Hassan? The precision, is it worse than the one who's...
Ahsant, Jazakallah khair. So what's the difference between the person that is Hassan, he doesn't have complete precision, he's a bit lower than that, and da'if? What's the difference? The difference is, this one here in his precision is finished. He's under 65. 30% he's getting right, 20% he's getting right, 10% he's getting right. That's the difference. His precision is weak. As for the other one, his precision is good, but it's not like the one at the highest level. If he was to do his GCSE exam, he'd be getting B's. It's not like A stars. B is still good. Obviously, C is still a pass here. But in the Mustalah Hadith, C is weak. D is weak. معي؟ واضح؟ Okay. طيب. So if you have all 5 conditions, then the hadith is sahih. And if one of the conditions is slightly lower, which is complete precision, if it's a bit lower than it, then it is considered hasan. And if any one condition is missing, then the hadith is da'if. Any questions? We're going to get the hidden defect. It's hidden defect. We're going to get to it, inshallah ta'ala. طيب. You guys okay to continue? Not too much information? You want to continue? Ahsant. So the brother said, sometimes he hears that the word sahih, da'if, is used for the narrator himself. Is that for the narrator or is it for the hadith? Sahih generally is for the hadith. As for da'if, then it's used for both. Both the matan and the narrator. But in any case, I don't want to go off topic, inshallah ta'ala, jazakallah khair. Otherwise, we're gonna go to a higher level than this book. طيب. Okay. Bismillah. Next one. طيب, he says, والمتواتر الذي روى عدد بغير حصر وله العلم استند وغيره خبر واحد وما زاد على اثنين فمشهور سما وما رواه اثنان يسمى بالعزيز وما روى الواحد بالغريب ميز وسم He says in the next couple of lines المتواتر متواتر and خبر آحاد. We have two things here. متواتر and خبر آحاد or واحد as he says here. Mutawatir is one thing and khabar ahad is categorized as a separate thing. And under khabar ahad, we have three types. I'm going to get to it inshallah ta'ala. So we start with mutawatir. He says that the mutawatir الذي روى عدد بغير حصر وله العلم استند. He says mutawatir is that which many people have narrated. Many people have narrated. Without putting a number to those people. Yani there's so many, we don't put a number to them. Mutawatir is that which many people have narrated without putting a number to it or without restriction. Alladhi tuhib, whatever you like. To the extent that it is impossible for those narrators to have come together to conspire, to fabricate, and to lie about a hadith. So many people have narrated this hadith that it is, to the extent that it is impossible for them to come together, to conspire, to fabricate a hadith. If a hadith is narrated by two people, pray 2 rak'ahs first. If a hadith is narrated by two people, is it possible that those two people come together and they lie about this hadith? It's possible, sah. But in mutawatir, so many people have narrated it. Let's say 12 people have narrated it. Not 12 people alone. 12 people or more in every tabaqah of the chain. Let's say there are 4 levels to the chain. Between Bukhari and the Prophet ﷺ, there's 4 people, for example. Let's say for this hadith specifically, it's been narrated by 12 people on one level, 10 people on another level, 30 people on another level, 15 people on another level. Is it possible for all of those people to come together to lie? To fabricate this hadith? It's impossible, sah? This is what mutawatir is. And it benefits, as he says, knowledge. One second. And it benefits knowledge. Meaning, it's not something that by way of the aql you could figure it out. 1 + 1 is 2. Khalas, okay, 15 people narrated here, 20 people, 30 people. Okay, 1 + 1, 100 people could figure that out. 1 + 1 = 2. No, this is something yufidul ilma, something that benefits knowledge. Is that clear? So many people have narrated it to the extent that it's impossible for them to conspire, to lie or fabricate, and it benefits knowledge.
Does it mean like all these people have narrated it word for word, or like 90% precision or something?
Ahsant. That's another topic, but generally speaking, the asl is that they narrate it word for word. It's allowed to narrate a hadith by meaning, as long as the meaning doesn't change. You don't use words that change the meaning. Okay? But generally speaking, word for word. So, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ. Close to it, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. What's the difference? Niyyah and niyat. Niyyah is singular, niyat is plural. The meaning, has it changed? No, indeed, all actions are by way of their intention, or the intention of the people that perform those actions, the same meaning. The wording slightly varies, but this is considered still one hadith, as long as the same companion. Opposite of mutawatir, or the next category of mutawatir, is what? Khabar wahid, khabar ahad. Khabar ahad has three categories underneath, or three types underneath it. Everything that's not mutawatir is called khabar ahad. What is khabar ahad? It has three types underneath khabar ahad. The first is mashhur. The second is aziz. The third is gharib. We're going to go through each one. The first one is mashhur. Mashhur, write down. It has been reported. It has been reported, the meaning, definition of mashhur here. It has been reported by more than 2 people in all the levels of the chain. In all the levels of the chain. It has been reported by more than 2 people in all the levels of the chain. In all the levels of the chain. Next one. Everyone with me? Repeat it, someone. Yeah. In all levels of the chain. Ahsant. It has been reported by more than 2 people in all the levels of the chain. Next one. Aziz. What is Aziz? Aziz, it has been reported by 2. One second. It's technical, so it's saying in English. It has been reported by 2 That's hard to put it in the definition, but let me explain it and then we can work it together. Somali's worse. Arabi? Arabi? Okay, look. Let's go back to mashhur. We have 4 levels, right? Mashhur, what did we say? Ahsant. So we have 4 levels. This level has to be more than 2. So let's say 3. This one has to be more than 2. Let's say 4. Let's say 3. Let's say 4. Okay? This is hadith mashhur. But Aziz, any one of the levels has to drop to 2. So let's say it was 15, 15, 15. But one of the levels, only 2 people narrated it. Then it is Aziz. This is the definition of Aziz. That in any one of the levels, it has to drop to 2 narrators only narrated it. In any one of the levels. Even if the other levels are higher. But it cannot be lower than 2. With each other? Aziz hadith, but not less than 2. Is that clear? Why? Mutawatir, every level has to be high. Mashhur, every level has to be 3, 4, roughly. A bit more, a bit less. Aziz, in any one of the levels, any one of the levels, it has to be 2. And not less. Just one level is enough. 2 labas. Gharib, the last one. Gharib. You haven't wrote yet? Labas, go. Ahsant. Ahsant. The brother asked, what is mustafid? Mustafid and mashhur is the same. Some people call it mashhur, some scholars call it mustafid. It's the same, mustafid and mashhur. We're going to get there. Say again? There's more? Then it always drops to the lowest. What's the lowest that it'll drop to? 2. Then the whole hadith is considered aziz. See why it's difficult for the definition? You can bring a nice definition in English. Yeah, any one of the levels, it has to drop to 2. It can't be lower than 2. in any one level of the levels. It can be higher, but it can't be lower. Allah ya'inkum, you guys write your definitions. Then we have the last one, gharib. It can be higher, but any one of the levels, if it drops to 2, then the whole hadith is considered aziz. Minimum 2. It can't be lower than 2. Everyone with me? طيب, gharib. Gharib, if you understood aziz, gharib is the same, but any one of the levels has to drop to 1. Any one of the levels. If only one person narrated it in a level, then the whole hadith is considered gharib. Is that clear? Hadith of إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ in Bukhari is gharib. Why? From the Sahaba, only Umar bin Khattab narrated it. From the Tabi'een, only one narrator narrated it. After the Tabi'een, only one person narrated it. And after 3 levels of being gharib, in the 4th level, many people narrated it. Let's not confuse the two. The affair of Sahih, Hasan, Da'if has got nothing to do with these numbers right now. Okay? This is different categorization. Again, everyone with me? We have mutawatir. And anything that's not mutawatir is khabar ahad. Mutawatir has been narrated by so many people at every level to the extent that it's impossible for them to come together to conspire to lie. And it benefits knowledge. Number 2, khabar ahad, and there's 3 levels to it. More than 2 at any given level. More than 2, but that doesn't reach the level of mutawatir. Or 2, in any level, it's minimum of a 2 people narrated it. Or gharib, in any of the levels, only one person narrated it. Ahsant. This characterization, aslan, it entered into the knowledge late. And it entered in because of some people of innovation. And we're going to go off topic if we discuss it. But in short, they wanted to reject some ahadith. So what would they say? They would say, oh, this hadith is not mutawatir. It's khabar ahad and we don't accept khabar ahad. Some of them would say, yeah, we accept it only in anything that's not to do with aqeedah. So the ulama, they use this categorization, but to prove to them that even their categorization that they started, it goes against them as well. That we accept the hadith that is authentic, whether it's mutawatir, whether it's khabar ahad of 3, 2 or more, 2 or 1, we accept all of them. As long as the 5 conditions have been fulfilled. Okay? And so from that time till today, they still mention this categorization. But the discussion of it in detail is out of this level. Any other questions?
One chain be gharib, let's say it has different sahaba narrating to different tabi'in, and another chain that's
Look, so Ahsant, good question. So now when we're talking about this affair of tawatur and khabar ahad and whatnot, this hadith, this text, with the people of hadith, the scholars of hadith, if the text is the same and it's been narrated by 2 different companions, it's considered 2 different hadiths. The more companions narrate it, the amount of times we say this is a hadith. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ has only been narrated by Umar bin Khattab. But let's say it was narrated by Aisha and Abu Hurairah and Abu Darda. Then it would be considered 4 hadiths. And so you could say, from this angle, from Abu Hurairah, it is gharib. But from this angle, it is mutawatir, for example. And then you have mutawatir goes into different categories, which is outside of this level. But they say mutawatir lafdhan, mutawatir in this specific wording. Or mutawatir bil ma'na, in meaning. So in meaning, even if it's from Abu Hurairah, from kada, then it's considered mutawatir still. وإياك. Any other questions? طيب, we'll stop here inshallah ta'ala. We'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue next week inshallah ta'ala with al-marfu' inshallah ta'ala. Abshir. Okay. Quick recap. So, from the beginning, this book or this poem is called Manzumatu Alqab al-Hadith, the poem of the terminologies of Hadith. This level, we just want to introduce the terminology, the laqab, and its definition. That's it. As for the difference of opinion between the scholars, examples from ahadith, and going into detail, that's a higher level. Right now, we're just at the basic level of what is this laqab, getting used to the name and its definition. The first laqab that we've mentioned so far is number one, matan. And we said that is the text, the action and the statement of a person. Then we said number two, sanad. The sanad is the chain of narration. In order to have a text, you have to have a chain going back to it. Sanad. Number three, we said as-sahih. What is sahih? We said it's the higher level of authenticity. There's two levels of authenticity. The higher level is called sahih. The lower level is called hasan. The higher level is the hadith that has 5 conditions within it. It has actualized within it 5 conditions. And the hadith al-hasan has those same 5 conditions, but in the third condition, it's a bit lower. What are those 5 conditions? We said a connected chain. We said that it has to be trustworthy narrators. We said they have to have the highest level of precision for sahih and a lower level for hasan. It has to have no shudud and no illah. No illah and no shudud. The next category or laqab is al-hasan. We mentioned that right now. And then he mentions al-dha'if. What is al-dha'if? It is the hadith that is missing any one of these conditions, any one of these 5 conditions, then it's considered a hadith that is dha'if. Then we went on to mutawatir and khabar ahad, like we said. Mutawatir has many people that narrated it to the extent that it's impossible for them to come together to lie, and it benefits knowledge. And that which isn't mutawatir is called khabar ahad or khabar wahid. They are of 3 types. The highest is al-mashhur, that which has been narrated by more than 2, to the extent that it doesn't reach the level of mutawatir. Then we have aziz, it's been narrated by 2 people. And we have gharib, it's been narrated by 1 person. And these 3 is referring to the minimum at any level. It's more than 2, less than mutawatir in any level, even if it's 1 level. In any level, 2 narrators and not less, or in any level it drops down to 1, and we consider the hadith by the lowest level of narrators in any tabaqah level, and it's called after that. And with that, inshallah, we finish. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam wa baraka ala nabiyyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi.